Here are the solutions for day 4. Verify the identity. Let's show step by step that this expression right here is really equal to 1. So the technique is that you start with the expression on the left side of the equation. You perform substitutions and algebra steps to simplify it until you get it to equal to 1. You cannot skip any steps because when you're verifying, you're showing step by step in writing. So this right here is equivalent to sine of t times 1 over sine of t. What I did was replace cosecant with the equivalent expression 1 over sine. Now cross-canceling happens on the sine functions and it leaves the answer of 1. So we have verified that if you start with this expression, that it's possible to perform algebra steps to it and get the answer of 1. Question B, we're going to start with this expression and show that it's possible to make it be equal to 1. In the first step, I'm going to replace secant squared y minus 1 with the equivalent expression tangent squared y. On our trig notes, we have a trig identity that involves secant squared and a 1. When you look at that identity, you can see that it fits this situation and that this result is tangent squared y. Now in the next step, let's replace cotangent squared y with 1 over tangent squared y. These will then cancel out, and you're left with the answer of 1. Now the next one, we're starting with this on the left side, and we want to show step by step that it does make secant of theta. So I'm going to use the technique that we had talked about the other day, where you try to replace trig functions with equivalent expressions that have sines and cosines. Where it says secant theta, that's the same as 1 over cosine theta. Now in the numerator, this is a fraction. This is kind of like a fraction if you put a 1 underneath it. And this is subtraction. This is like subtracting fractions where you need common denominator. So let's do that. Let's create a common denominator by multiplying the top and bottom of this by cosine theta. That would create 1 over cosine theta minus cosine theta over cosine theta. And the denominator will stay the same. Next step, because these two fractions have the same denominator, we can combine their numerators. 1 minus cosine theta all over cosine theta, and then that's still over our same denominator we've had all along. Okay, next step. The 1 minus cosine theta, when you divide by 1 minus cosine theta, simplifies to a 1. And in the final step, 1 over cosine theta is secant theta. Now, if you're not really fluent with dividing fractions, I may have lost you right in this step here. So let me go up here and kind of expand on what I did. I took this first fraction, 1 minus cosine theta, all over cosine theta. And then when it said divide by this right here, I thought of that as timesing by the reciprocal. Then I cross-canceled, and it left 1 over cosine theta.